Welcome to the Explainer. So, when 3x3 basketball showed up at the Olympics, it seemed like this cool, new, innovative sport, right? But what if I told you its journey to that global stage wasn't a story of invention at all, but something more like a quiet takeover? Yeah, the source material we're digging into today paints a very different picture.
So this is the real question, isn't it? We see 3x3 basketball under those bright Olympic lights, and our first thought is progress or innovation. But the article we're breaking down today makes a pretty bold claim that what we're actually watching is the final move in a long, calculated game of absorption and rebranding.
And this quote right here from our source, a writer named Mark T. Armstrong, it just puts the whole argument right out on the table. The claim is that what happened to streetball, well, it's not a new phenomenon. It's a playbook. It's a pattern that's been running for about a century. All right, so to really get this, we have to rewind. We have to go back to the force that really kicked this whole thing off, the And One mixtape era. This wasn't just a trend, it was a cultural bolt of lightning that grew completely outside of any established system. I mean, you have to think about this. This was before social media, before every league had a perfect global marketing machine. These DVDs were passed around hand to hand like a secret handshake. The A&1 mixtape tour literally became this self-powered cultural engine, building a massive global following completely on its own terms. And what's so wild, when you look at this, is that it was a completely decentralized powerhouse. This movement was making its own superstars, guys like Hot Sauce and the Professor, selling out actual arenas and changing global fashion, all without asking for permission from anybody. The culture itself was the engine, not the other way around. And don't get it twisted, this was not some small niche thing. At its absolute peak, And One was valued at $250 million. This proves streetball wasn't just some cultural curiosity, it was a massive economic force that could go toe-to-toe with the giants of the industry.
And the commercial reach was just huge. You had blockbuster video games like NBA Street bringing this vibe directly into millions of living rooms. People trading bootleg DVDs, that was basically an early, analog version of the creator economy we talk about today. There was absolutely no question about it. Streetball was the engine of youth basketball culture. So here's where things take a really sharp turn. When a culture gets this big, this powerful, all on its own, well, institutions that can't control it have to find another way in. And according to our source, step one in that playbook is to erase its name.
This slide just lays it out so clearly. Look at this shift in language. Streetball, with all that raw, authentic energy, becomes the squeaky clean corporate global game expansion. A mixtape becomes a player development pathway. You can literally see the authenticity being scrubbed away and replaced with sanitized, boardroom-approved jargon. And the source is really clear on this. This wasn't some kind of coincidence. ESPN drops its streetball coverage. The insanely popular NBA Street video game series, canceled, right at its peak. All of a sudden, the word streetball itself just, poof, disappears from the official conversation. The argument is that the goal wasn't just to compete with And One, it was to completely erase the category that And One had built and owned. Okay, so this is where the plot really thickens, because at the exact same time the word streetball is being actively erased, something new is being quietly constructed in the background to take its place. This timeline is so important. Just look at how perfectly this is all timed. Right as the organic mixtape culture gets shoved out of the mainstream, FIBA starts this very deliberate step-by-step process of building its replacement. This isn't a sudden idea. It's a calculated construction project, starting with research and ending with a full-blown regulated world tour. And just like that, a game that was once totally open, unpredictable, and owned by the players on blacktops everywhere was transformed into a structured, governed asset. They kept the aesthetic, right? The urban feel, but they stripped away all of its independence.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of the argument from the source. 3x3 wasn't created because of some new, unmet demand from the people. No, it was created to contain and capture the energy of the massive streetball wave that was already there, its brand reallocation.
Now, this is where we zoom out. Because as our source argues, what happened to streetball isn't some one-off event. It's just the latest chapter in a long story of how grassroots basketball movements get absorbed by the powers that be.
And this slide shows that playbook in action, again and again. First, you have the New York Rens, a legendary, dominant, black-owned team, basically erased from the official history books. Then you see it with the ABA. It gets absorbed, they take all its innovations, like the three-point line, and then they kill the brand. And now streetball culture gets replaced by the institutionally controlled 3x3. It's the same play, run over and over. And just to be clear, this isn't some fringe internet theory we're talking about. This is a well-documented historical analysis. Books like $40 Million Slaves have been examining this exact pattern for years. How Black cultural and athletic innovation is so often co-opted, repackaged, and sold by the mainstream. When you see it laid out in a table like this, the pattern is it's undeniable. A grassroots movement creates something new, something valuable. An institution takes action to either absorb it or replace it. And the outcome? It's always the same. The originators become invisible, and a sanitized, controlled version takes their place. So, what does this all really mean when we see 3x3 under the Olympic lights? What is the big truth we should take away from this whole analysis? Well, the term for this, according to the source, is institutional appropriation. The process is finally complete when the people who started it all are nowhere to be seen, and the institutions that took it over are the ones standing on the podium, collecting medals for their new invention. And this, right here, is the final, most powerful takeaway from the source material. The mixtape era didn't just die out, it was harvested. The energy, the culture, the passion, it wasn't lost. It was just transferred to new owners, who then sold it back to the world as their own creation. And that leaves all of us with a really critical question to think about. Not just for basketball, but for music, for art, for fashion, anywhere that culture and commerce crash into each other. Once something is institutionalized and put on the world's biggest stage, who does it actually belong to anymore?